Hi, welcome to this retreat, Advent retreat of a week. This is an instructional video. It's just an explanation of how we can make the most of this retreat. I decided to separate these instructions from the actual prayer guidelines that I will be giving so that you could have a more concise explanation of how to pray, and later on just to concentrate on the prayer guidelines and the time of prayer itself. So basically, in this brief instructions, I'd like to say that to describe what will be the parts of our prayer routine for this week. So basically, each day we're going to have three main moments. First is what we call the prayer guidelines, which is what I'll be giving as instructions. This would be about 10 minutes or 15 minutes at the most. Anyway, it can't fit so long into YouTube. So it's a short explanation or guide on how to pray with the readings of the day. The second moment that we would have is your own time of silence. The time of silence can be just 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or up to an hour, depending on your own availability and your own desire to pray. So that will be the second moment where I will also give more instructions on how to use the time of silence. The third moment is the end of the day. So actually, what these spiritual exercises of daily life intend to do is to provoke a greater sensitivity to God during the day. So at the end, I would advise that you could have 10 to a maximum of 15 minutes to examine the day of how God has spoken to you, of what that message that you have heard in the morning has meant to you during the rest of the day. So these three will be the principal moments that we will have: the prayer guidelines, the moment of silence, and the examination of the day at the end of each day. Now the second part of this instruction is a practical explanation of how we can use the time of silence when we are by ourselves. So once again, there will be three simple steps which can guide us. The first step is to make a summary of the message that you have understood from the guidelines or from the passage of the Bible. So we would advise you to reread those passages slowly, peacefully, in order that you can draw out the message by a very intelligent reflection over the passages and based on the explanations that could help us. So make a summary of the message. Second, try to identify 2 or 3 meditation points that you can ponder on and focus your prayer on. There's no point to think about too many things during the time of prayer because it's brief, but just try to point out those more touching or striking points that have led you to pray or to a deeper conversation with God. And the third step of prayer is practically to talk to God about those things. Since prayer is not just about intellectual reflection, prayer is about developing a relationship of faith with God. So that third step is to talk to God and to just express yourself and listen to Him during that time. The third part of this instruction is just to explain what the prayer guidelines structure will be like, so that you can make the most of the little video that you will be receiving, or even choose the parts you want to listen to. So basically there's 4 main parts. The first is the presentation of a basic prayer attitude, so that we can develop our style of prayer, so that we can also develop tools in order to pray better each day. So that's the first. The second part is the explanation of the Bible readings of the day. Since we're in Advent season, we'll be talking about the daily Mass readings. The third part of the guidelines would be to present the meditation points as proposals for the time of prayer that you will have. So normally there'll be 2 or 3 that will help to apply the message of these readings to our daily lives and to our Christian lives. And lastly, there might be some short instructions that could guide us in the time of silence. Just one short note about the time of silence. There could be 3 questions that could help us in our conversation with Jesus. As we said, there are 3 main steps, if you remember, to summarize the message, to find the meditation points so that you could reason them out intellectually even, to think about them, in other words. And the third part is the conversation. 3 questions can normally help us in our conversation. And the first is to ask Jesus what he wants to tell you. Take your time to listen to that answer from your heart. Let him tell you what he wants to say. The second question is why he wants to tell it to you. Why is it important, this message, for your life and for your own faith? And lastly, ask him how to put these things into practice in your daily life. So finally, just one point for this week. I would advise that you could set a fixed time for your prayer every day during these spiritual exercises. That will be very helpful to be disciplined, to pray not less time than you have set aside, nor pray more than what you've set aside. Why do I say not to pray more time? This is not a hard and fast rule, but the point here is that we could continue our prayer during the day, not only in this set time of prayer. The purpose of this set time of prayer is to make us more sensitive to listen to God and to experience his presence in the events, the people we meet, and the words that we hear even. So try to be disciplined on that fixed time. Let it fulfill its function, but continue your prayer throughout the day, and that's what the examination at the end of the day will be for as well. So I think that's all the instructions that I have for now. If you have any questions, just please text me with voice or a message, and I will try to explain what this is, what else, what the questions that you might have.